kids' sound taken care of.
That's what I needed, some hot coffee.
On a hot day.
Yeah.
Right, and we're good to go.
Okay, good.
We're
Let's
live.
call this meeting to order. Teresa, would you please call the roll?
Absolutely. Noel,
Sorry, unmute here.
John,
Here.
Michael,
Here.
Jocelyn,
Here.
Gordon, John,
Here.
Yummy,
Here.
Michelle,
Here.
Brett,
Here.
Gordon. I'll take that as a yes. He's on he just, okay,
Yeah, I would ask that he be recorded as being present.
okay, I can do that.
He needs to vote through chat.
Yeah. Have a quorum, Ron.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
The first matter is to approve our agenda, so we're happy to entertain a motion for that.
Yep.
I move approval of the agenda.
So second,
Second.
so moved and seconded, we approve our agenda. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstaining? Thank you. Our next matter is to approve the consent agenda.
You just did that.
Hmm?
Oh,
I just did the agenda. I move approval of the consent agenda.
Okay, second.
Second.
So moved and seconded, we approve the consent agenda. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Or abstaining? Thank you. It's passed. And the next matter is old or unfinished business for the building committee.
I represent that. Anyway, thanks for this special meeting of the board, and the express purpose is to consider the Green Valley project. This was considered by the building committee last week. And it was unanimously approved by the building committee, and there were 6 members of the board present at that time. Let me give you a quick summary of the building project. And then if there are questions, we can entertain questions. Because it comes from the building committee, the motion has already been made. And if somebody wants to make a second, then we'll tell you what, let me present, and then when we get there, somebody can make a motion. So this project is one of the projects that was listed when we went to the voters in November of 2016 for Proposition L, that we would give Green Valley a new library. The history of the Green Valley Library, the short version is pretty sad. It's like a downtown location and kind of an old building, and didn't serve the community very well. We went to a shopping center, and we're in there now, and we've rented that for a 4 or 5 year period.
Since 2013.
2013, thank you, Susan. And anyway, and it's met its needs, but if you're familiar with Green Valley is really one of the growing portions of our library district. There are growing portions really in the Northland, and this is one of the growing areas in Jackson County. And so the population increase, and I looked at this during the building committee, is about 13%, and it continues to grow. And so this library is really due for a new library. So what we have before us, and I got to remind our board members, it's a guaranteed maximum price. The value of a guaranteed maximum price is that if we approve this, it locks in the price. If there's additional cost or that go above that, they are absorbed by J.E. Dunn as our construction manager. If they are lower than that, we get the benefit of that. And actually that's occurred on some projects. The reason why we wanted to press ahead, if I can put it that way, on this particular project is that we are undergoing inflation. And inflation is reflected in any number of different ways. And there's a slide in the slide deck that shows you what it particularly looks like. This is the first project that we've probably seen some level of escalation in materials. And so there's not only escalation of materials, but also there's the timeliness. If you get sooner, there are long supply chain issues that, are well known to us, but, we have fared really well in our building program throughout, and we're now down to the point. So there's a slide, and there's a slide that gives a guaranteed maximum price. Staff is going to tell you is that it's 5.97 over the projected cost, I'm going to tell you 6% for purposes of the discussion, because that's fair. There's a slide in there that talks about that. That seems reasonable, given what's happened with the escalation in construction costs over the years to date so far. I'm going to tell you is that by decisions by the board, that we've done several things to try to contain the cost. Most significantly is that we made the explicit instruction of going from 15,000 square feet down to 12,500 square feet. And so that got us a lower cost. And much to my surprise is that the folks that our property owner was the city of Grand Valley, and we budgeted $750,000 for property, and we got it for $320,000. So we basically saved $430,000. So if you look at the slide about what the 6% is above over the original cost, in reality is that the savings on the property that we have realized covers that particular cost. I had a chance to talk with our construction manager, our staff construction manager, prior to the meeting. I wanted to, this didn't come up in the building committee, but I think it's important information to have. Our guaranteed maximum price is not unlimited. These are bids that are offered to us, and there's a time sensitivity to it all. And the general one is for 45 days, and we got the bids on July 19th. So that would basically take us toward the end of August. More particularly, and this sort of shows you what the construction market looks like, is that our structural steel bid is only good until August 3rd. Today is August 2nd. So we might have some forbearance and some other consideration. And then you want to say, well, then I asked the follow-on question. I said, well, what does structural steel represent as a part of our project? You know, I have no idea. You know, I know buildings need structural steels. Structural steel is $619,000 of our project. So if you look at and think about it, simple math, our structural steel is 10% of what the overall construction cost of this. The question came up earlier, not in the building committee, but from our finance chair. What about F&E, you know, furnishing and equipment? That is not in the bid, but that's about $300,000. And that's been the normal cost that we've had for similar size, you know, projects along the way. And if this were a brand new project and we haven't built a project in 10 years or 12 years or 15 years, we would sort of pause and say, well, is that too high or too low? But we're now on our 28th or 29th project. And so we have some sort of experience. I think the cost also have been contained, if you could put it that way, frankly, by having the same group of people who work on a number of projects over a period of time. And so that they understand ways that you can save money without necessarily detracting from the building or just detracting from the customer experience. One example, I think Brad from SAP is on the call, but he talked about reducing the amount of structural steel by not having long spans with glass, but having fewer, you know, lots of glass, but not the big extended structural steel that extends across the whole panoramic, you know, window glass. So anyway, a really thoughtful discussion on the part of the building committee. You know, there are more information that could be in there, but I would particularly look for people that aren't on the building committee and didn't have the benefit of being at the building committee last Thursday. If there are particular questions that they want to ask, and we can either get staff to respond to them all or provide additional information.
Any questions?
With no questions, I bring to you a unanimous recommendation from the building committee to approve the Grand Valley. It's on the screen, but I can read approval and recommendations from the building committee to the full board to accept work package 9 Grand Valley for the total guaranteed maximum price of $6570482 to be paid from the capital projects fund, and approval authorizing staff to draft a notice to proceed.
Since it comes from the committee, we don't need a second. So call the vote. All in favor of the recommendation, please signify.
I would ask for discussion.
Yeah.
Well, but I didn't know what he responded.
We asked for questions, Ron.
Oh, okay. All right, discussion.
Brent?
Yes.
Gordon, hold on, I have to mute my computer because I can hear myself. Okay, just one question I noticed late after I sent out the earlier email. in the dashboard, you have a current cost for Green Valley of $4,977,492. Can you explain? I understand the price increases, but were there design changes? What's the difference between the 4.9 to the 6.5, which is about a 30% increase?
I think I heard you, Ron. You're really pretty soft, but I think the question is, I'm going to turn it to Jake. I think Gordon is asking about this number here in the dashboard.
Yes, the original budget was $4,977,492. When we came out of the pandemic, we realized that we would have to readjust our budget. And that was for a 15,000 square foot building when we first started the program back in 2018. So when we had this discussion in January with the building committee, we went forward, we kind of discussed where we were going. And that was when we brought to the board that we thought that we should reduce the scope from 15,000 to 12,500. And the price was going to be budgeted at 6.2 million. And we also went forward with the East Independence, which was originally supposed to be between 18 and 20. We decided to downscope that to 12,500 because of the budget that we had left. So each of them was 6.2 million budgeted.
I think Gordon's question is, if it says 4.9 here, why is the difference between the budget and the 4.9 here on the dashboard?
I'm sorry, I'm not. It does say 4.9. That was the original.
Yes. How did we get to a 6.2 million budget? Is that correct?
We talked about
Yeah,
that back in January.
yeah. But if we were at 4.9 or 4.9, guess what, whenever in 18 that was. So we're 3+ years down the road. What component costs have changed that are causing that 1.5 million increase in cost? And if it's the same design, are there design issues that came into play that added cost that were not in the original 4.9 million?
No, it didn't have anything to do with the design construction at all. It basically had to do with the hyperinflation from the pandemic, which was roughly about 20%, and the material increases, which are roughly about 50%. So I'm sorry, 30%. And so as you go forward and you look at that 30% material increase, that typically tends to, over the entire project, give it about a 15% increase. And so when we looked at that, we decided that as a committee and as a board that we were going to raise the rate that 15 to 20% to get it to a more palatable budget that we knew we had a pretty good shot of getting at versus the 4.97, which we knew we weren't going to be able to get at because of the hyperinflation and the material issues.
Gordon, I'm going to try to summarize. I think as a board, we discussed that the budget would increase. We did see it reflected on the dashboard. So the dashboard in some senses has been problematic in a sense is that if you view it as a financial tool, it has its deficiencies. If you look at it from a project management tool, it has served us well by allowing us to keep track of where we are in terms of our projects. It is, our CFO is in the room with us, is that it's a strong about whatever we budget is that it really clearly shows what it is that we've expended when you look as we invoiced out what that is.
This is John. I just might point out that during the meeting, we had an extensive discussion and there were many questions asked and answered, almost too many to review here. And there was a unanimous vote in favor of this. I just want to make sure that was clear.
Other questions, comments? Anything else?
No.
Jake?
I think we're ready to vote.
Okay, let's call the vote. We have before us the resolution with regard to the Green Valley GMP, which is already read. All in favor of this, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
And opposed? Abstaining.
Can we call the vote on that, because I couldn't hear everyone. You want to do a roll call?
Yeah,
Yes,
let's do
do
a roll
it.
call.
That's okay.
And I think for protocol, it should be last.
Okay, yeah, I can do that. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see. Brent,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Yummy,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
Gordon,
Yes.
Joycelyn,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
and it's unanimous decision. Thank you all.
See if I can proceed to the next item.
Please.
We currently have a lease. Staff wants to approval to negotiate a month-to-month lease. And it would be, it's this to negotiate. We've had a long-time lease with the property owner where we currently are located. And rather than a 12-month lease, we thought there might be some advantageous approach to do a month-by-month lease because we might be out of there depending on how the building project goes. The current lease runs till March of 2023.
Correct.
Correct.
And so,
I'm sorry.
yeah, and so this gives them some time to get in and have a negotiation with the property owner. If they run into difficulty, they can come back to us all, but this is just approval to allow them to start that discussion. And this was unanimously approved by the building committee, and it comes as a motion from the building committee.
And recommended by the staff.
Yeah, recommended by the staff.
Any discussion? Or, I'm sorry, questions of the chair of the building committee? And that was presented as a motion.
Yes.
Okay, it's been moved by the building committee that staff be authorized to enter negotiations for a lease as is set forth on the screen. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Hi.
Any opposed? Abstaining? It's passed.
Thank you.
The last item, and we truly try to commit to a short meeting, another project. This is for your viewing and seeing. It's more kind of an evaluation. It's the East Independence design. So I'm going to ask staff to pop that up on there. This is another example of Jake was talking about. We took a building that was 15,000 square feet and reduced it to 12,500 square feet. Understanding and doing this was the land swap that land transaction has gone through.
Yes. No, we're not quite done.
We're in the very final stages.
We're close to closing on the land swap. Lane 4 is taking our old Red Bridge property in that shopping center, and we're getting this property. It's a nice piece of property. You can see what it is that it looks like. I should say this, both at Green Valley and East Independence, they were designed in such a way at some point in the future, if there was a need for expansion, is that you could add on expansion, even to the point of ganging electrical or ganging plumbing, at an access point. So when you do want to expand, it was anticipated and planned for. So this is a thoughtful sort of approach on both these two buildings. So this is the elevation, looking at that, and there's a second slide. And this is what it looks like. The pink area is the road. And it sits down in a sort of a swale, if you would. And that's one of the advantages of having the promontory, if I could put it that way, that makes it fairly visible. There's a wooded area back behind there. It's really close to Little Blue Trace Trail. And and so we just want you to sort of see this. We can ask staff to email this out. So people can sort of do it, but this is the design that we're proceeding with. And there's some more design work to do before it comes back. Would go out for bids and get us the guaranteed maximum price, and we can see what the impact is of construction costs, materials, and inflation, at that point. So we wanted to share that with you and see with you to sort of bring you along. And so today, in less than 3 minutes, less than 30 minutes, we've we've dealt with two out of our last three, major building projects. Our last one, and there's nothing to really share other than the fact we closed on the riverside on the land transaction, but we don't have any designs or anything like that to share. So that's the report from the building committee. And thank you.
Thank you, Brent. Any announcements? No announcements, trustees' comments. Trustees' comments?
Stay cool.
Stay hydrated.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Wood Weeks is an interesting opportunity, and I think people got the invite in the mail to go see the whole project and not just, the house and or the library, but you can see the auditorium and the grounds. I would encourage trustees to. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole day activity commencing at 9 o'clock, and if anybody has a chance to see the invitation, which arrived for me in today's mail, it looks like quite an eventful day for an amazing project. Okay, any other comments? Trustees?
I presume people still have time to vote if they haven't already done so.
Like 7 o'clock, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.
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 It's unanimous.
It's guaranteed unanimous.